that all is well with that. Got one person raising two. Okay, let me make sure here. Can everybody see me switching through the applications?
I can see you fine, Eric.
You can see it? Okay. Looks like I've already got a couple of questions here. Let me double check. Okay, here. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so let's get started here. Let me pop into the slide PowerPoint. It's not showing up. There we go. Okay, so this is the Revit rendering class session number 3, which is the remaining Revit topics and Q&A. And we're not going to probably have much time for Q&A, so I'm going to stop at each one of these topics and make sure that there aren't any questions. Let's see, there actually already are a few, so let me double check here. Could you change the color? Oh, you mean for the background? Let me see who this is here. Let me unmute you, see what you mean here. Okay, you're unmuted. What do you mean by change the color? You mean the background color of Revit? Arar? Okay. Oh, background color, okay. Yeah, I'll change that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so remaining Revit topics, basically we're going to be covering Revit rendering a little bit, photometric lights and cameras. So it's the creation of the lights and cameras in Revit that we're going to be focusing on here. I'm going to start off with, let's see, the remaining topics. We're going to start off with the sun system. Fast forward here. Okay, so lighting in Revit. There are 3 main types of lighting within Revit. There is the sun system, standard lights, and photometric lights. So we're going to start off in the sun system. I'm going to kind of walk you through that, and then we're going to do a creation of a standard light and then a photometric light. And the process is the same for standard and photometric. Photometric just has a few extra options. So we're going to start with creating the standard, and then I'm going to show you the photometric. And the photometric light process of creating it, that's going to take the bulk of our time. So after that, we run through the lights, then I'll show you cameras. And cameras aren't going to take very long because there aren't a whole lot of options in Revit as of yet. So, yeah, let's jump in here with the sun system first. Now, the sun system is turned on or off by changing the lighting scheme to anything using sun. You can change that, and I'll show you. I'm going to pop into Revit as soon as I run through this slide. But once you turn on the scheme to anything that has sun in it, you're turning on the sun system. And if you're doing anything with artificial lighting that doesn't have sun within the scheme, you're turning it off. So that's basically the on-off switch for the lighting for the sun system. And Revit uses time and place information for accurate sun studies, and you set that up, and that was part of the very first class. The rendering class is setting up their time and location, and I'll show you that process really quickly. And when you set up your location, that's going to reflect for what time of the day it is for your sun system for doing renderings for shadow studies and sun studies. So, and then also this is a good practice is when using the sun system for interior with light coming through windows, you want to turn on daylight portals, and I'll show you that process. And that unfortunately really kills your render time, but it gives you really great results. And what that does is it gives you more accurate lighting outside of the actual light path coming through the windows. So in the corners of rooms and things like that, you'll notice a lot more brilliant lighting that comes through the windows. And if you have that off, you'll see a lot of things in shadow that normally wouldn't be in shadow. So it's a really good practice to turn on daylight portals. Let's go back here. So let me show you guys the sun system. Now when you go here in Revit under settings, manage place and locations up here at the top in the menu bar, this is where you set up your place for wherever the location is for the project you're working on. So under place, you have your city here. Once you turn on city, you'll see it updates your latitude and longitude accordingly. And see, I'm in Fresno here, so let's put this on Fresno. Where's it at? Fresno, California. You'll see it updates your latitude and longitude, and you hit OK. Now that's embedded into your project, so now that's your location for this project. So whenever you have that set up and you open up your render dialogues, you can see, if you don't notice it here on the left in your dialog, right click and turn it on, rendering right here. And it won't come up when you're in a plan view, so you need to be in a 3D view in order to get your rendering dialog. But when you click on rendering dialog, this is where you're going to find all your sun settings. And like I was saying here, under lighting and scheme, these are the different presets for your lighting scheme. So anything that has sun in here is when you're turning on the sun system. So if you're doing exterior sun only, which is what most people are going to be doing for exterior renders, you click this, you're going to see you've got options for where your sun location is. And sunlight from top right and top left, that is a generic azimuth and altitude setting, which I'll show you how to adjust that. But this is for quickly saying, okay, well, I want it to see what the sun's going to look like on the, when it's in the right side of the sky or the left. And then you've got your solstice and your equinox, and your sun and shadow settings. This is where your location is going to come into play, and that's all set up through. If you go down here to the bottom to edit new, you're editing your sun location. Now, if you click this, this is where you link all these different, either the azimuth or altitude or the location to these different presets. As you can see, sunlight from top right and top left just have a different azimuth setting. So it's just for quickly showing the sun from those two different locations. And if you click on sun and shadow settings, you want this to be set to date, time, and place or location. So whenever you click on this, it will give you your accurate sun studies. So you want this to be set, and then you see the location that you set up under your settings. It comes up here. And these are also linked to the location, but depending on the different date and time for equinox and solstice. So that's how you link everything to these different presets, and we're gonna use our sun and shadow settings. Now this is going to have the sun in the proper location for Fresno, California, for this project, and wherever your settings are for your location, and that's how you can adjust that. And as you can see, the artificial lights button here is grayed out anytime you're using sun only. When you turn on sun and artificial, this will come up, and I will show you more about that. It's actually called the light lister. It's a setting that came in from 3D Studio Max that they brought into Revit, and I'll show you how that works because it's really handy for speeding up render times for doing artificial lighting. But for now, just running through the sun system. So you've also got your background settings, and style is basically your sky cover. So you can see there's a few different options here. No clouds, very few clouds, clouds, cloudy, very cloudy, and color. Now this is going to give you clouds in your render. You click on color. This will give you a color background that you can use, and you can change this to whatever color you like. Unfortunately, you can't use an image for this. There's no plug-in button for attaching an image, so you can just use standard color. But under style, if you turn the clouds on, it gives you pretty good results for a background. So I usually use the sky settings, and if I want to get a custom background for this, I'll render it out with an alpha channel and just do a quick composite in Photoshop and use my own background. So that's that's where you're going to find your settings for your sky cover. And last here is your adjust exposure, and this is the same for either artificial lighting or sun lighting, but you've got your exposure value and all your shadows and midtone settings, and these are independent of your render. So once you do your render and you change these settings, you don't have to re-render. It updates your actual render image. So you can change these and you hit apply, and it will actually update your rendered image without having to go through the whole render process. So you can adjust this, and it's a good method for exposure value is the one that I usually use. I usually don't touch anything else because these settings are pretty close to accurate. But like I say, exposure value you might want to adjust when doing artificial lighting, because you'll notice sometimes the lights aren't as bright as they need to be. And instead of adjusting each light individually, this is a really quick and dirty way to increase the exposure, which gives you the same result. Yeah, exposure values, like I said, is the one you only really want to mess with. The other ones, I mean, you can get in here and tweak these as much as you want, but that's the one you're going to notice the most dramatic results with. So, and that's under your adjust exposure. Hit OK here. So I mean that's the gist of the sun system. We don't have a lot of options in Revit, unfortunately, for the sun system, which is good and bad. I mean, their presets are pretty, they're pretty spot on. So for the results I get from this, I'm pretty happy with. So that's about it for our sun system, unfortunately. But now the next thing we're going to move into is creation of artificial lights, and that's where Revit's extremely powerful. Where there's two different lights for artificial. Let me run into our PowerPoint. Okay. Artificial lighting is, you got your